Hello, I'm reviewing the Edison Glenmont fountain pen today. I got this pen directly from the manufacturer, but they are sold in a number of online stores as well. This is currently the most expensive pen I own, as it cost me around $250 US. I had been curious about Edison for a while, one reason being they are from my home state of Ohio. The Glenmont is a large pen. This particular one is in a green swirl acrylic, as you can see. I've had it for about 6 months, and it still has a nice, shiny, buffed finish. Edison Pen Company Glenmont is laser engraved on the side, which is a quality touch. The clip is unadorned and very simple, long with optimal springiness. It's attached at the top of the cap by a screw-on finial. So if the clip ever breaks, it can be replaced quite easily. One thing to note is how smooth this seam is here on this finial. Yes, the material break can be seen, but it's not felt with the fingers at all unless you really try and use a fingernail. The screw cap twists off with just one rotation, which makes capping and uncapping very fast. When looking inside the cap, it's nice to see how translucent the material is. The nib on this pen is a number 6. I have a two-tone nib on this to match the gold clip, but a silver, palladium, chromium, single-tone, one-color, whatever you want to call it, nib and clip option is available too. The Edison logo is nicely engraved on the nib, along with the letters extra fine for this extra fine nib. The feed is large and does its job very well, as we will see in the writing sample. I opted for a cartridge converter filling system, although other systems are offered, including unique ones that Edison Company has invented themselves. I hope to get one of those in a future Edison pen, but for now this works well, since my extra fine nib doesn't use up ink quickly anyway. The converter that it came with isn't branded, but the quality feels fine and it does its job. Right now I am using Noodler's X-Feather ink, and let's get to the writing sample. The grip section is simply a contoured body material with a flare at the end, and it feels fine, and the threads aren't sharp. So the pen's weight is on the light side, but it's not too light, and there's no problem with the balance. The cap can post and looks thick enough to friction fit and not worry about it cracking, but it's not a cheap writing instrument, so be careful if you want it to post. The pen is big enough that it doesn't need posting anyway. With no pressure, the nib has a pleasant feedback for an extra fine. I didn't need to smooth or align it either. One thing I note, which is probably more due to the feed than the nib, is how consistent the ink flow is. I can write quickly without any skips or variations in saturation. A broad nib isn't likely to be different because I did swap the nib on this for a while with a Fude nib, which puts out a lot of ink. But it still kept up quite well. And so, sorry, for this pen, I don't know the manufacturer of this pen. The Fude nib is a Jinhao brand, and it was bought separately. One reason I got the extra fine nib on this Edison pen is because extra fines can often flex a bit, as this does, but the flex on this is slight. My personal yes or no of flex I define by whether or not it can advance 2 nib sizes. This one barely makes the cut. It starts extra fine and then possibly gets to a medium width. Nevertheless, I really enjoy writing with it, and the flex is consistent. So, although it can't make a whopping variation, it does have a niche with a few particular styles of calligraphy that are accentuated by a subtle flex. Again, though, I will note how wonderful the flow is and how essential that is to flowing lines such as these. And so that's the Edison Glenmont. I do recommend it. It's made in a small Ohio shop in the United States. I've heard they have great customer service. I will say, though, that this pen is kind of no frills except for the finish. It's simply machined material with a converter and not a lot of complication. So the price is high for that. But as with many fine instruments, once your taste for nuances and quality becomes heightened, a cheap pen that writes well will not measure up to this one. The Edison Glenmont is fully reliable, and I know exactly how it will write every time, and that in itself is quite valuable. Thank you very much.